Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day today. So today we have a decent amount of things to talk about. Let's get straight into the topic. So here we have Tropical Storm Margot, we have Hurricane Lee, we have Invest 97L, and I think Invest 98L. We just have tropical waves coming off of Africa. And we have some tropical waves already in the eastern Atlantic Ocean. So, let's get over to Hurricane Lee, I think. Alright, so as you can see, this is Hurricane Lee. It's starting to build some of that convection back up. I do start to see this. It lost a lot of it, but it's seeming so that it might get some of that back. So that's something that I notice. And as you can see, this is towards Africa. We have Margot kind of not really moving, Invest 97L, and we have some tropical waves that have some chances of developing. 30% chance is low, but still possible over the 48 hours and 7 days. And so this is disturbance 2, and it has a 40% chance, but it's pointing more towards the north. So we just gotta hope that this is gonna be a fish storm. We have this one that actually went down to a 20% chance, and this is pointing more towards the border islands and the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. That's pointing towards the Caribbean. So we'll have to keep an eye on that because that can go up. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And this model is probably going to change. It might either point more west, it might even point more even east. We'll just have to keep an eye on that. Usually it stays the same, but I think we'll get another update 5 p.m. today. And as we go into Zoom Earth, you can see that this thing has kind of changed a lot. It was a category 5, which is the crazy thing, because now it's down to a 2. This thing has changed so much, but it's going to be probably back to major hurricane status pretty soon. Monday 2 p.m. forecasted to be a category 3 major hurricane. Monday 2 p.m. category 4 major hurricane. Right here, if you look very closely actually, you can see that it kind of looks like there's a center of rotation right there. And it's just a big blob, not organized. None of these showers and thunderstorms are organized at all. This is what they look like. This one has a higher chance. This one has quite a low chance. But right now, both of them are pretty low. We have some more showers and thunderstorms coming along. They don't seem to be doing much though. Satellite data. Okay. So this is something we do need to keep an eye on. So this is the GFS model. And as you can see here, this is Lee passing by, and it's going to get quite close to Bermuda. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. And as we continue through time, that just goes north. But then we have Nigel here. And Nigel shows that it's getting quite close to the Bahamas, but then it makes that turn. And it moves a lot more west. So South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, you need to keep an eye on this storm. I'm just gonna put the areas, and I'm gonna, so like the east coast of Florida, Bahamas 100% actually needs to keep an eye on this. Dominican Republic, Virgin Islands, higher areas of the border islands. The Caribbean needs to be on a watch out because this storm can change completely and go straight into the Caribbean. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. This is more of a view of like where it's really gonna go. So this is Lee. You can see that it gets quite close to Bermuda. Maybe the center's like 100 miles away. And at that point, tropical storm conditions are still possible. And that makes landfall basically on Nova Scotia, a bit of Maine. New England, you still need to keep an eye on this. This is Nigel here, and we can see that it does make that turn a little bit more early. And it's just like digs, Virginia, kind of Rhode Island, New York, and then it just dips right into them. So it's really hard to say because this model doesn't really say that. It says it gets like quite close to Virginia and then curves back, which can actually put it seems to be going straight back down. So if that's what happens, it might actually come back down into the Atlantic and possibly Caribbean. So that's Lee. And then this other one just shows that it like digs right through a bunch of states, like right through. It's possible. Let's see. And then let's go tropical Atlantic. Alright, so that's Lee. And we can see that this low pressure system does form through, starts to make that rotation, and it starts to look like a donut. And it shows that it curves right through and it does not make that turn. So it's gonna be really hard to say what this thing does. It shows that it's a little bit more east when it makes that turn. But this model shows that okay. The East Coast is definitely going to see feeder bands if it gets that close. But then it shows that it pulls back into there, so it's really, 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 really hard to say what's going to happen at this point. I do not know, so we're just going to have to keep an eye on that. It's going to be pretty tough. This is the visible satellite. We can see Lee, we can see Margot, we can see all of these tropical waves, we can see some convection right around there, and then we can see Central America has some showers and thunderstorms. Cuba, Guatemala, you're seeing some passing showers and thunderstorms. Dominican Republic, same for you. British Virgin Islands and Virgin Islands, you're seeing some feeder bands moving through. And towards the higher areas of the border islands, you're also seeing some feeder bands and some cirrus. Let's just go over this. So you can see that it really develops. This is 30 hours from now, apparently. You can see how big that eye is. This is September 13th. And it tries to make that eye wall replacement, but it's gonna fail. As it gets into the colder waters. This is the radar of Florida. There's some stronger thunderstorms off of the coast. Tampa, you're seeing a decently strong period of heavy rain and some lightning. But under that, like Venice, Sarasota, Englewood, and even under that, it's quite quiet. It's really only Tampa and higher that only really see rain. So we're hoping that we're going to start to see some rain for the areas under Tampa because it's just quite dry. So this is the tropical developing area. You can see that, as we can see here, we have this one big area of rain. Very big areas of rain. Then we have a bit of a smaller area in West 97L that has some rotation with it, but it's not so small and it's still not organized that much, and it lost a higher chance of actually getting its development. It went from a 30% chance to a 20% chance. Then we have these very unorganized storms that are just around. It might collide with that tropical wave, which might cause some more development, or they're going to go off on their own. Something could happen with both of those new circles. I'll put an arrow to these systems that we need to watch. So those two storms that I just made an arrow with, if they collide, they could expand, and we could see something there that could bring the chances up for development. But the main thing we really have to watch is the higher chances of development right here. This has a 40, and the other one right here only has a 20. That's 20% difference. And I mean, it's not that much yet, but it's still something. We can see Margot and Lee. Let's go to Hurricane Lee. Alrighty. So this is what Lee looks like. We can see that it has that convection starting to come around again, right around here. And we can make out that there is an eye right around here, that it's trying to form, but it might not. It's just a matter of waiting. So even as a category 2, these are some very high clouds, and they were higher, but they're still quite high, which shows a lot of power in the storm still. And even towards like the outer bands, these are some pretty high clouds. Even feeder bands and just normal outer bands can produce some pretty high clouds, which can put some strong thunderstorms, if not severe weather. Feeder bands, not so much. They're a lot weaker. They don't tend to do that, depending on how that storm itself intensifies weather-wise. And before, it used to make this funnel inside, but it doesn't do that anymore, which shows that it's really not nearly as good as it was before. It is weakening. Right here, that blue means a lot colder clouds. So, I mean, there's still a lot of colder cloud tops because of how hard they are still, but it's weakening, and it's just basically missing sand. It's just basically missing Jamaica, which is a good thing, and it's also missing the Caribbean, and the border islands, Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic, it's staying away from them. It's basically stalling right now, which is actually going to give, it's going to give that chance of the front to develop, which is going to push it straight north. And that's why it's not going to be following the track that could potentially be. It's just going to go up north, and that's why it's going to get pretty close to hitting Bermuda. Let's go that way. Alright, so now let's go to as you can see, we have a decent amount of stuff around here. Quite a lot. Some convection going on here, but it's losing that, so it's just some isolated flooding that can happen around here with all this heavy rain starting to conclude, but still there long periods of time with heavy rain. The main part of the storm for now of Lee is going to be staying away, which is a very good thing, but as it stalls, it gives it a higher chance of developing, which is something we don't want. We want it to also go faster so it doesn't develop as fast. Stalling is going to help, and it's also not going to help. By helping, it's going to give it a chance and push it up north, and potentially could make this into a fish storm, which we're hoping. And that helps the east coast of Florida, the Bahamas, and it helps the Virgin Islands, Jamaica, and Dominican Republic, and the border islands, and it just helps the Caribbean. It just really helps it. So that's a good thing. And we're going to hope that continues, and we're just going to hope that it doesn't hit anywhere. That's what we want. Not you. Want that. This is the GFS, and this is going to show the forecast model. We're going to mainly focus on Lee in these areas that are tropical waves. And this is what the clouds look like currently for these tropical waves. They're building. They are not that low. They are building mostly lightish rain. We'll keep an eye on that. Alrighty. It's loading. And you can see that it kind of like forms, and then we have this area right here that kind of looks like it has some rotation, and it tries to do something, but under it there's like all of this that's going on, and it's kind of hard to say which one of these are going to develop, but it seems like both of them collide, and then right before we lose how far we can go, it looks like it's starting to become something here. Depression, tropical storm. Most we're gonna see here is a hurricane. So the Caribbean, the border islands, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and Bahamas kind of need to pay attention, and maybe even the East Coast, the South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. You need to pay attention to this. But yeah, that wraps up the video for today. Make sure to stay weather ready, and I'll keep you updated. Bye.